Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat and this is Catadactyl. So today I'm gonna do my mid-year summary, kind of see where I am, and the one goal that I gave for myself in March was to read more translated fiction and to read more literature that wasn't coming from America predominantly. So let's go ahead and see how I did. So by the end of June, I have actually read 90 books. So first off is author genders. Sorry, I'm just looking at my information down below. So author genders, of the 90 books, 43% were men and 53% were women, 2% were non-binary, and 2% had many authors who wrote the book. So I feel like that's not that bad. 53% women to 43% man is a pretty even skew, I think, considering I was not specifically trying to read more men or more women. That's just completely random. It worked out about 50-50. So on that regard, I'm pretty pleased. So next let's take a look at number of overall pages amongst the books I read. So there were a few novellas which were under 160, but the bulk of my reading is between 160 pages and 400 pages. So I find most books are around 250-400. Anything over 400, I have to have already read that author, expect that it's going to be a 5-star read for me, or I need it to be recommended by someone that I really think that I have similar reading taste to. So I actually only read one extra large novel, and it was Battle Royale, which was 666 pages, so that's just crazy. So let's get into my star ratings. Actually, I find myself to be a pretty harsh judge. If I really enjoy a book, it will probably sit around 4 stars, which is the predominant 39%. I read 4 stars. Then the next bit is like 3 and 3.5 stars, which it's a good book, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, and I wouldn't necessarily buy it again if I came across it. DNF 2 and 2.5 stars are books that I would not recommend, and I'm probably salty that I wasted my time reading. And then of course 4.5 and 5-star books only make up about 12% of my reading so far. So that's not completely bad, but a 5-star book is only 2% because I'm really stingy with anything higher than 4. Like if a book is higher than 4, that is a book I'm going to beg my husband to read and tell all my friends to read because I really want them to talk about it with me, basically. So let's talk a bit about genre. I was actually pretty shocked when I wrote down all the books that I read, like truly, honestly, all of them, because I do read quite a fair amount of romance to cleanse between like books if I feel a reading slump coming on. So if I read a good book or a bad book and I feel a slump, I'm like, oh, better jump on that romance train, which led me to having my 2 biggest sectors of reading, 24% fiction and 24% romance. I don't know how I feel about that. Like when I saw it, I wasn't surprised, but I guess I was a little like, I don't know if I should try to read less romance or better romance, but I just always tend to find romance really comforting and cathartic if I need to escape kind of an imminent slump. My next biggest was 10% of fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, and nonfiction, and then 8% magical realism. Magical realism is kind of a catch-all for things that are like mostly real life, but like with a little bit of magic thrown in. And then there's 7% illustrated, 5% new weird, and 1% poetry. So seeing this, I also realized that I'm really bad at reading poetry. I tend to not like most modern poetry. The poetry that I seem to get on well with the most is quite old. I'm talking like Shelley, Wordsworth, Samuel Coleridge, I'm talking like real old, or beat poets, which is 1950s Americana. So anything outside of those 2 ranges, I really struggle to connect with or really love. I think I love really like beautifully crafted and also like really interesting word choices and beautiful word choices. I've read some poetry recently last year and this year, just didn't jive with me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just like a stick in the mud that only likes old shit, or yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any poetry recommendations for poets that you think are kind of similar to beat poetry, that I might like, please do let me know down below. Like I said, I'm really bad at choosing poetry. Every once in a while will pick up something that people like recommend and they really loved, and then I'm like, oh, it was like okay, and then I feel like I'm the Simon of like the poetry readers, and I mean, it's not nice to be like the one person who doesn't like it. Yeah, so if you have recommendations, I would love that. I'd also like to talk about queer rep in the 90 novels that I read. So I do tend to read a lot of queer romance, and most of that is male-male, and I don't know why that is, because female-female is also very much appreciated on my end, but I just almost never come across a story that is intriguing or written well. And actually, Nicole at Wolf's Whistle, I will leave her links down below, always has great recommendations. I actually recently read one that was probably the best lesbian romance I have ever read, The Brutal Truth by Lee Winter, but it's not really smutty, so it's not as cathartic as something I would normally read, but it is an excellently written lesbian romance. If you guys have lesbian romances recommendations, I would really greatly appreciate that, because I'm struggling to find ones that basically like interest me at all. Like, I don't know, the gay romance that I read or the straight romance I read, it's like love to hate, shifters of some kind, fantasy stuff, but I have yet to find any like pirate lesbian romances. So if you guys have any recommendations, please do send them my way. Anyway, of the 90 books, no queer content was 63%. Queer content, which means that there were some queer characters but they probably weren't the main character, is 12%. And queer main characters specifically was 23%. So overall, no queer content, 63%. Having some to a lot of queer content, 37%. And I'm always looking for queer rep, so yeah, I'm pretty pleased about that, and I hope that the trend continues on as I go. Alright, so let's get back to talking about the authors themselves. So just as a breakdown of author race, I roughly broke it down into white and non-white or person of color. The white authors are 69% and the POC authors are 31%. So author race is clearly something that I need to work on. A 70-30% skew is not ideal. And the most colorful chart that I have is for author nationality. 40% goes to the US, which is a vast improvement on the almost 80 to 90% that had been before. So already things are looking much better than previously. Japan is at 20%, largely due because in June I only read Japanese books, so it was a huge boost for Japan. 17% to England, which is pretty true. I believe England was 11 to 15, so I read slightly more England. And then Australia, Canada, Sweden, Scotland, Ireland are about 2 to 3 to 5%. And then Austria, Albania, Poland, Iraq, Iceland, Spain, Finland are all 1%, which means I read a book from each of them. So there is a much greater skew than in the past. Specifically, you see it in the number from the US dropping. Basically, I just want to get my US-centric reading habits kind of like pushed down. Like, if there's something out that I really want to read, or if I'm sent something from America, I will read it, but on the whole, I'm really trying to be mindful that like there's way more literature than just the US itself is putting out. So already, I'm like super jazzed about it going from like 80% US down to 40, so yay, yay, go me. And the other note is to read books that were not originally published in English. So the last thing I want to talk about is original language. English is at 72% and translated works are at 28%. So I feel like that's pretty good. Yeah, that's almost 30% of the books being translated, which I feel like is a vast improvement on what was happening previously, which was pretty much like Japan or nothing. So yeah, I think I'm pleased overall. I need to read more POC authors and continue with reading non-US and translated works. So overall, I'm pretty pleased. Keep in mind that I did only start implementing my no US, more translated works rules in March, so I only had 3 months to kind of correct my flow, and now I have another 6 months to try and do so. So I'm really hoping that by the end of the year, these numbers will be, you know, just a better overall look at the world in general. If you guys have any tips or comments, I would love to hear them. This video is great if other people see it and are inspired to read different types of books and keep themselves accountable. But also it's good for me because it's kind of holding myself accountable and having the hard numbers to look back on, especially at the end of the year. So wish me luck, and also good luck to all of you guys. If you like this video or you want to see more translated works or smutty romances, whatever you may like, please hit the thumbs up button or subscribe. It would be awesome, and I will chat to you guys later. Toodles! Bye!